Right now on Face the State, he's been a fixture by the governor's side, or at least 6 feet away during the pandemic. Today, Chief of Staff Paul Mounds on Connecticut's battle against COVID, the protests, the economy, and more. Plus, Connecticut native and CNN commentator Chris Cillizza is with us to talk presidential politics and who Joe Biden will pick for a running mate. Also, we continue our look at Black-owned businesses with developer Tim Moore, who has big visions for our capital city. It's all straight ahead this Sunday, July 12th, 2020.
From Eyewitness News, Connecticut's most watched local political program, this is Face the State.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dennis House. Connecticut continues to be among the leaders in the battle against the coronavirus. The numbers are heading in the right direction as we approach the next phase in reopening. With us now, a person who is as close to Governor Lamont as anyone can be, the Chief of Staff, Paul Mounds. Paul, good to see you here in the program again.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.
So let's talk a little bit about this, because this pandemic, we first started covering it in March, and yet now Connecticut, at one point, it looked pretty bad. All of a sudden, we're at the top of the pack in terms of the best states in terms of handling coronavirus. How did we get there?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. How we got to where we are right now is just remember how this virus started. You had the Trump administration cut off flights from various parts of the world on the West Coast, but didn't do it for the East Coast in Europe. So we had a lot of flights coming in from Europe into our New York airports, as well as into Bradley. And so we saw on the East Coast here, particularly New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, where the virus ran rampant and where it took over all of New England. I think one of the things that we have done well as an administration is work with our fellow administrations in other states, and started with a 3-state collaborative, moving to a 7-state collaborative. We're able to share best practices, share when we're making various decisions, but overall that collaboration has allowed us collectively as states in this region to fight this virus and epidemic head on.
Let's talk about the next phases to come. What's next and when will that begin?
Yeah, so as you know, we have stated that understanding while we're doing particularly well in managing this crisis so far here in Connecticut, one of the things that we're seeing as we've had additional states added to our self-quarantine list is that this epidemic is still within our nation. And so we have held back on the most recent phase, which was going to lead to further opening in bars, as well as other indoor dining experiences, increasing the capacity as well. We feel it's best to take a hold for now, and we're going to reevaluate coming in August. And I think one of the things that we want to do first and foremost is make sure that our state is ready to take back the schools and have our schools be reopened in a safe manner for our teachers, our administrators, our students, and make sure our parents are feeling very comfortable about it.
As you know, we had the governor on many times over the summer. We had a special Thursday night edition of Face the State through the spring, rather. And I'm wondering, what was the daily life like for all of you? Because you were at every single briefing. When did it begin early in the morning with perhaps a phone briefing, and how late did the nights go?
Well, I think this life has started for us starting on truly on March 6th in that afternoon when we had our first case up in Danbury Hospital. But the day-to-day operations for us is it starts early in the morning, go late at night. We're all available by phone, myself, my senior staff, as well as with our commissioners, making sure that we're coordinated so we can properly brief the governor so for the proper decisions that he has to make. In addition to that, a lot of phone calls with our regional partners. I speak to the chief of staffs and the fellow other states around us on a daily basis. The governor speaks to other fellow governors. We have White House calls. We have calls with the regional groups, with the reopening group. It's truly been a 24/7 operation here in the state government. Couldn't be prouder of our team and prouder of the state workers who have dedicated themselves to this response.
As you know, when this first began, Fairfield County was hit particularly hard, southwestern Connecticut. Looking back on it, what kind of mistakes do you believe New York made that impacted our state?
I think overall, we all didn't really understand how rampant this virus can move. And I think once we realized that it was not just going to be centralized in Fairfield County, and understand that our borders are just imaginary lines when it comes to viruses of this sort. So I would say overall, New York tried to handle this as best as possible. And I've been great working with our partners there, and the governor speaks to Governor Cuomo on a weekly basis and working with them. And I think once we got an understanding of their situation, it allowed us to make better decisions here in Connecticut.
Paul, the Hartford Courant reported that 16,000 New Yorkers moved to Connecticut during the pandemic. And there's been some criticism of life in New York these days. Some say, well, number one, it's expensive. It's always been expensive. But they didn't handle the pandemic well. And a lot of people decided, I'm going to go someplace where there's more room, the real estate's a little cheaper. And so many are coming to Connecticut. Do you believe that this trend will continue?
I think a lot of individuals, a lot of businesses are going to start making truly individual decisions about their daily life and what is best for their overall health, what's best for their family, what's best for their workforce. I think, as always, we always welcome anybody here to the state of Connecticut. We feel that this is an extremely vibrant state. And I think one of the things that we provide is that space for families to grow, businesses to grow. And we're ready to welcome them in. With that said, like I said, these are truly individualized decisions that are going to be made.
Is there a recruiting effort underway to perhaps lure some businesses who want to get out of New York and are looking for a new place to go?
I think we still have our usual outreach that is done from led by David Lehman, Department of Economic and Community Development, and then working with our fellow commissioners as various entities have questions or concerns they want to raise. I would not go far to say that there's a particular recruiting effort on individuals or on businesses, but I would say that for those individuals and businesses that want to look elsewhere, and want to look at Connecticut, and that's also individuals coming from states like Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and others. We're here ready to answer their questions and let them know that Connecticut is a vibrant place for their family, their business, and for their overall life.
You're with the governor a lot, and you've been advising him during these protests that we've been seeing in the wake of the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. What kind of things do you think the state should do to improve race relations in our state right now?
I think one of the first things that we can do is pass a very robust, strong police accountability bill. I think one of the things that we've always stride ourselves on in the state of Connecticut is being a leader on policy development. And this is a great place for us as a state to be a leader on. I think the other thing that we should do is really take hold and understanding of what is really driving the data and the numbers that shows that people of color are most disproportionately affected by the COVID crisis. And that really has to do with long-term morbidities and long-term issues that are really structural. And so this is a great opportunity for us to partner with the legislature as we go throughout the year and really make real changes that is going to be important for that particular constituency.
Do you believe that the governor will be appointing more people of color to judgeships and other government-appointed jobs that are open right now?
I would say, first and foremost, the governor has already led by example. We have, at the height of our administration, we had approximately 50% of our administration women. We had the most people of color as heads of our agencies. I don't like to tout myself, but I'm the first African-American chief of staff in the state of Connecticut's history. And I know the governor is going to continue to lead by example when it comes to our judicial branch as well.
As you know, the statue of Christopher Columbus was removed by the city of Hartford. It is in the view of the Capitol, not too far away, right around the corner from the state Capitol, as a matter of fact. I want to ask you about one particular statue, and there may be others on the grounds of the Capitol, but Israel Putnam was a slave owner. Should that statue remain right near the Capitol?
I think when it comes to these various statues, we have to all have conversations about what those statues represent, and also at the same time understanding how do we best understand the history of our state and of these individuals. I think this is a fine time for us to have a review of statutes, period, and what they mean, and whether or not they're still relevant to the times.
Paul Mounds, Chief of Staff to Governor Ned Lamont, we thank you for being with us and enjoy the rest of your summer.
Dennis, it's great seeing you.
Great to see you, Paul. And we'll do it in person next time.
Look forward to it.
When it's safe to do so. All right. Thanks, Paul. In a moment, who will Joe Biden pick to be his running mate? We'll talk to one of the nation's premier political commentators who just happens to be from Connecticut. Welcome to watch past editions of Face the State on our app or on our YouTube channel.